So this is passive pharmacovigilance. Everything is in harmony. The people who license the medicines product in your country are happy. Nothing happens so far. So, and that's the role. If you're passive, yeah. So by the way, that's the flag from one of our ISOP annual meetings in Accra in Ghana. Watch and wait. That was, I must say, for a long time, the practice in medicines agencies. Well, I would say in the 70s and early 80s. So, but what is active pharmacovigilance? Active pharmacovigilance, I would like to give a short summary. You must have a clear and comprehensive pharmacovigilance legislation in your country, in force. That's the basis for you. If you are working in a medicines agency, you need this background, this legal background for your pharmacovigilance work. This includes regulations about its inspections, decision-making, who is responsible for decision-making, competency, I come back to this later and some of the other speakers as well, clear responsibilities in your agency, transparency and all the legal tools. For instance, if companies and others initiate referrals to your decisions. You must have in place a pharmacovigilance system. I will explain this a bit later during this session. You must have, and this is important, therefore we are here in this training course, you must have sufficient staff and capacity. An agency in a large country with a huge population and only 5 to 10 people in the agency, that's insufficient. So for long at the WHO and ISOP we have worked on training of sufficient staff and capacity. And you must have all the technical tools to have access to database, to literature and to the media. You should establish some networks, for instance, with the professional groups like medicines, physicians, pharmacists, and others. You should, if possible, have some expert groups in some specialized medicines fields and partners with which you work together. At a starting point, you must have a complete and full understanding of the entire properties of the medicinal product. This includes the quality, this includes the chemical and biological properties of the active ingredient. It includes toxicology from tests before licensing, the pharmacology and specific properties. This is challenging nowadays in regards to the new biologicals, which have not been known in the 80s, for instance. So one of the experience we made is that the pharmacovigilance people in your agency or in your company and agency, should be involved in the licensing procedure as early as possible. It is difficult to have separate departures. One are working on the licensing, and the other say, now we have the license, and now the pharmacovigilance people take over the work. That's not feasible, and we made bad experiences with this. Pharmacovigilance people should be involved in the pre-licensing period to say, what is this, what kind of medicinal product is it? What properties has this? Which are the people who will be treated in the future after licensing? What are possible risks on which we do not know enough? So be involved in the licensing process and benefit harm assessment. So what does this all mean? Very challenging and not clear, not easy to understand. This is a brief agenda what fields of work do pharmacovigilance include? I will not go through this slide, but only will make some remarks. History and disasters is the starting point also for pharmacovigilance. Pharmacotherapy probably has its roots far back in human history. Possibly the people here in Latin America, but also in Europe and Africa, have experiences with herbal medicines, I would say, in the first line, but the starting point of pharmacotherapy in many cases. And probably a huge number of humans died or have been injured by drugs. They did not call this drugs in former times, but we don't know how many people died from such experiences and development periods for medicinal products. Thalidomide in the late 50s and early 60s, that was really the booster detonation of modern pharmacovigilance, which mainly happened in Germany, but also in some other countries. This was the starting point for developing rules, legislation, techniques, methods in pharmacovigilance until now. You could give a long list of fields of work which have their origin in the thalidomide disaster. And then there have some true and pseudo disasters in the late 20s and 21st century. So that's history and disasters. Science and knowledge that belongs together with pharmacovigilance, in mainly the biosciences and natural sciences. Medicine, that includes medicine and biology, biochemistry, and all the others. And pharmacovigilance is developing with progress in biosciences and vice versa. Again, the example of the monoclonals is that's a completely new technology and development in medicinal products. We pharmacovigilance people had not been dealt with these new products in the 70s, early 80s. And from pharmacovigilance also back, it has effects on the development of monoclonals. There's a mutual relationship between the two fields. So basic research in biosciences is one area of research in biosciences. Research in chemistry, of course, you must develop these medicinal products and active ingredients. Pharmacovigilance in clinical trials, on which we have not discussed very much here in training courses and in ISOP. Drug utilization research, really important to make at the end a proper and robust benefit-harm assessment of a specific medicinal product. Epidemiology and statistics. Yes, we will address this field later in this session. Social sciences, including communication. We have tomorrow a special session on communication, and this will be addressed there. And developing new methods. Pharmacovigilance is not a science that has everything developed, but there will be new tools, new methods in the future. What has not been observed in former times of pharmacovigilance is the impact of pharmacovigilance in public health. And pharmacovigilance should be an integral part of public health. Whatever the system is, you are doing public health in your country. Public health sciences can and should provide statistics, outcomes, treatment, health data, reimbursement data, data from other databases which are relevant to make a proper assessment of frequency of a possible ADR. And at the end, if you have taken any measures in pharmacovigilance, restricting the use also, you should go back to public health science data to measure the effect of your decisions. That's well known. ADRs have an effect of individual well-being and treatment. It has an influence of acceptance to pharmacotherapy compared to non-pharmacological treatment options. You are all aware of the people who are against vaccinations. This is a serious problem, but you also have people who are very skeptical versus drug treatment. It has an effect of drug development, and it has effects on ecology. So I'm sorry, but this is not well investigated and evidenced. We have now some data that you find hormones in the drink water and in the soil, etc. So in your pharmacovigilance department, you need some clinical experience and expertise. You should understand the type of ADRs and the seriousness and severity. There are some criteria developed in the guidelines. So there are, I'm sorry, there are 2 places, and here again one. You can take your seats. And there's another one. So it is helpful if you have clinical experience in managing ADRs to know about therapeutic options and medical traditions. Medical traditions is important because we know, for instance, not in Europe only, but also in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia, that medical traditions are completely different in countries and have an impact on the use of medicinal products and treatment options. Thank you. From behind the screen. No, nobody in there. So I have realized that pharmaceutics are very frequently engaged in pharmacovigilance with their expertise from the university. Research and development of medicinal products is in their field. Manufacturing quality assurance, there are frequently pharmacovigilance problems that come from manufacturing problems, including counterfeiting. A new way, field of work is pharmaceutical care in pharmacies, so that the pharmacists care for the persons who get more than 1, 3, or 4 medicinal products, and they need some advice on how to manage the treatment, but also what to do when adverse drug reactions occur. Counterfeiting, I already mentioned this. So these are critical points in pharmacovigilance. How to measure the magnitude of a risk. Natalia probably will address this question and give some examples. Then we have frequently also important for communication, the problem or the way how to communicate risk. Do we talk about relative or absolute risk? We should develop, or people should develop, methods to count the number needed to harm versus to treat. And sources of information are relevant. That's major databases. Also, Natalia will come back to this. We have in countries and regions quite different perceptions and acceptance of drug-related risk. You may all know that some people accept major risk with a treatment, and other people do not accept these risks with the same medicinal product. There's a wide range of understanding of drug-related risk needed. So what also is in relation to communication important is understanding true and patient-oriented benefits from the study. You should, if you communicate to patients, you should communicate about the benefits of a treatment in a specific disease and the magnitude and seriousness of ADRs coming from studies. So that I mentioned already this, that's in medical practice there should be, there's always the discussion about pharmaceutical or pharmacotherapy and non-pharmacological approaches in treatment of things. That's a critical point because the role of industry or the understanding of industry is of course to develop medicinal products and to sell these medicinal products and to concentrate of pharmacological treatments. However, there is a wide field of other therapeutic options which are not pharmacological. So that's unachievable. I think you would agree with this. I would like to address a bit about living with uncertainty, which is always in our practical work, has an important role. You as pharmacovigilance person, but also the community, the people outside, should accept uncertainty of available data of information. There's nearly, I don't remember any example in pharmacovigilance where we have so clear data that understanding is not in question. And as a pharmacovigilance person who is a bit more experienced in communication, you should communicate uncertainty. In uncertainty to different audiences. You would speak to physicians in a different way than to patients or in interviews in the media or so. So the precautionary principle is a thing which belongs to active pharmacovigilance. PV pharmacovigilance people should think into the future, in advance, what could happen, and not wait, watch and wait, but to have this understanding which comes from other sciences. The precautionary principle means that you think into the future. So I will not explain this table. You will have this in your USB stick. I think that only shows that there's knowledge about outcomes is this one, and knowledge about methods is this one. So it relates from risk, which is a probability of harm that is becoming true, to ignorance. So that's an interesting field, and here is the literature where you can read this interesting article. So, are you prepared for the crisis? Somebody here from Japan? Fukushima? No. But that's the terrifying pictures. You must develop a pharmacovigilance system, and this must be integrated into the national health system. You must establish the facilities and have enough financial resources, must have and build capacities in your country, in your region, in your society or your company by education and training. And you should declare, explain, and make clear the mandatory task in pharmacovigilance. This will be addressed later this morning. Role and fight against bureaucracy. Oh, I can tell you long stories from the European pharmacovigilance system. Some say that's a bureaucratic monster in the meantime. There is the danger that you try to regulate everything, every detail, and this is probably a problem for active pharmacovigilance to act in advance with a precautionary principle and rapidly enough. These are the relevant stakeholders and partners. I think this is well known. Communication is critical. From my own agency, we had the aspects in the 80s, though we don't say anything about adverse drug reactions, especially not about risk of a specific person which gave an interview to the media program. So that was the wrong way that brought us much critics, and we changed the policy. However, you must have people in your agency or in the pharmacovigilance department which have skills in communication about all the points, risk, uncertainty, benefits, harm, etc. And you must develop with them in training courses an understandable language directed to consumers and correct languages directed to other professionals. Be open, no closed shop. That's what, if you have a closed shop saying, no, we don't communicate something, you will have a lot of problems in the future. And understand that your agency and your company is under public observation. Nowadays, everything is transparent. With the new media, people can communicate and give information about specific policy of your agency, specific policy of your company, including secret data. So be aware that you are under public awareness. Here are some international cooperation partners. I will not go through. So that's me with my pharmacovigilance watchdog, and I'm at the end of my presentation. I hope I gave you an overview which did not go very much in detail about pharmacovigilance practice today. Thank you very much.